Well, I think the thing that makes a great storyline is something that resonates with us on a human level. I mean, it has all the D&D elements of swords and dragons and sorcerers and all that kind of stuff, always sort of mixed up in a unique way. But ultimately, I find that the most gratifying stories are the ones that people can relate to. They want to go on the quest because it's meaningful to them.
In something like Dungeons and Dragons, everything you do will have, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Like, if you save the blacksmith's son, then that will lead to something down the road. If you guys steal the treasure from the king's not just going to sit back and let you do that. Like, they're going to send people after you. They're going to try and get it back. And by creating that, you create a very real sense of the world. You create a big sense of, this is bigger than just the five of us at this table. There's other things going on.
That emotional connection is what makes it a great story, no matter the genre.
Yeah, characters you care about is often how you get that emotional connection and a good conflict. I think if you have a good conflict and characters who are interesting or funny or scary, you already right there have the building blocks of a great story.
The beauty of this interactive storytelling game is that as long as you make, kind of what the hook is very, very clear, and you give characters things that they would care about, then you can let that story play out around it.
We see amazing stories on Twitter and through other social media about gaming groups who decide, rather than killing a group of dire wolves, let's befriend them and let's work together. And I think that that's such a great part of D&D too, is just kind of going off of the, maybe the intended story, and you end up with a story that's even richer and better.
We really enjoy spending time together, and I think that if you can find groups like that, then the stories work organically because everybody knows their place in it, their voice, and how to contribute. Other than that, I think you just tell stories based on what you enjoy. Everything that I've done in Dragon Friends, and I'm the Dungeon Master, is just a mashup of what I'm listening to, what I'm playing, what I'm reading, and it shows. A lot of the audience sometimes can go, "Oh, did you just read this book?" And I'm like, maybe, over the break, shut up.
I love when there's a mix of, combat, but not too much combat. And, when we get to solve riddles, that sort of thing, like little problem-solving ideas. And I also just love it when we, meet a character along the way who's meant to be incidental, and they end up becoming a really big part of the story.
Which
and
has happened a couple
bring
of
them
times.
along with us on our adventures.
Being able to tie into an emotion that somebody's feeling, even though it's in a fantastical world or atmosphere, I think is key to being able to relate to what's going on.
The way the game is played best in my eyes is that you have to care about the actual outcome. You as a player have to invest. Like, if you're just out there screwing around, it's not nearly as fun as if these things actually matter to you. If everyone buys into that storytelling, it's the best way to spend a life.
As I think things get more popular with shows like Critical Role, there are celebrities now who are coming out as big D&D nerds. You guys just talked to one of them. There are a few others here, but there's also so many more people who finally feel safe admitting that they're playing D&D secretly. And there's something cultural about when a famous person says, "I do this thing," that makes a bunch of people think, "Oh, okay, it's cool for me to try it," or "It's cool for me to like it."
I would say one of the life skills that D&D early on helped me start to hone is actually careful listening. As a dungeon master, one of your jobs is to try to make sure everyone's having a good time. And that requires you not only to listen to your players, but to watch them, to see what's making them laugh, what's scaring them, what's moving them. I've noticed throughout my life that because of all the years I've spent DMing, I'm a little more tuned into those things away from the D&D table.
I think creating those stories for tabletop role-playing games, specifically Dungeons & Dragons, when I was a kid, were where I worked out my skills as a producer, as a writer, as an actor, character building.
It's also just given me better communication skills with other people, because you can't really play D&D and not learn how to talk to people.
It's like learning to just accept the rolling of the dice in a way. It's like, every time you try and do something, sometimes you just can't do it for whatever reason that's outside your control, and you got to go, okay, you can't change the dice. You got to just, if you had a plan, sometimes you got to change them. And I think it really encourages you to be flexible, and also, another lesson of D&D is that you're never doing it by yourself. You've always got people around you to help and support you, and that's a really nice thing to remember too.
I think like listening and embracing other perspectives is a really important life skill you can get from D&D. And I say that as the dungeon master, which is you can sit down all you want before a game and decide this is how the adventure is going to play out, and it will not survive contact with the players. And if you are in a place where you can listen and actually hear it go off the rails that you carefully prepared, and then embrace that and let it take you somewhere else, you get better stories. And if you can do that in life, you get better relationships and you make better things because you're collaborating.
It also really encourages creative problem solving. Like when you're at the table, yes, you can always hit things with the sword or what other weapon you've got on you, but it can be really fun to try and find different ways of resolving your problems.
Especially in stressful situations where I'm like, I can't do this, I feel like I'm drowning, oh my gosh, what's going on? How would I handle this in Dungeons & Dragons?
Something wonderful that D&D does is it gives you a voice. It tells you that your voice matters.
Yeah.
That because it's not scripted and it isn't necessarily predetermined, whatever idea you have is encouraged and praised, and I love that. And there's very little in our world that says that your voice matters, no matter who you are.